Go ask your brother.
Hey, welcome back. I know we've been quiet for a while on this channel, but we're going to try to fix that. And welcome to several new subscribers, so I figured the least I can do is give you guys some new videos. An interesting topic came up on one of the forums the other day. This fellow I was chatting with was complaining about having to mix Groove Agent inside of Groove Agent. And essentially his issue or complaint was that the mixing functions of Groove Agent are really limited. He's referring to this, this tab here. And so forth. So what he'd been doing, his goal was to get each of the drum sounds out on their own channel so that he could use all of the Mixconsole tools and sort of see his mix all in one view and so forth. And so what he was doing was dissolving the MIDI part, which was actually not, it's kind of a clever solution. The problem when you do this, of course, you do get each drum sound on its own track, but you get a VST instrument to go along with each one of those, which zaps a ton of resources. Everything gets kind of ugly and complicated. So from here he was sort of like making a whole bunch of MIDI tracks, moving the parts into those, then deleting all the VSTs and so forth. Very clunky. And I said, well, why don't you just use multiple outputs? And he said, oh, good Lord, no, I don't want to hook all that stuff up to my interface. And that's when the light came on that if you come over here and activate outputs, what he was thinking, and then a few other folks that I've spoken with were also under the impression that this output list meant audio outputs on your sound card or your interface. And they don't. When you activate these, it just creates mixer channels precisely for this issue so that you can send the individual sounds to their own mixer channels without having to fiddle fart around inside the VST. So as an example, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to click the button for all outputs, and you'll see that it instantly creates 16 mixer channels, but it doesn't do anything to the track list at all. So there's our 16 outputs waiting. Now you can go through and assign each drum sound to its own unique or independent output, and that gets you all of your mixing tools available. And then turn those all back off because we don't need that many. We'll do a quick walkthrough on this. So output number 1 is always activated on any VST, and it's usually called master. And anything that we pull out of that, like if we move the kick into its own channel, it's removed from the master. So I'm going to create 3 additional outputs for Groove Agent here. And you can look down at the channel selector here. They're going to be called out 2, 3, and 4. You can rename them. And I'm going to call this snare, although it's really more of a blip, I think. Whatever. You get the idea. And now we've got the channels ready. If we open up the VST itself, come to the item you want to work with, right click, and then assign it to your other output. The only thing about this that I don't like is that when you rename the output in the mixer, it doesn't flow backwards to this menu, so you have to remember which one was which, I guess. Or was it this guy? No, we'll use this one. Doesn't matter. You get the idea, so we'll send that to 4. So now, when we play back, let me solo just the drums. If you come down here, we've got, actually, we solo just the individual tracks. So just the kick track. You hear just the kick, nothing else. If I solo the original Groove Agent track, it's got the other little etheric stuff, but the kick, the snare, and that woodblock sound are removed because they're sitting in their own tracks. There's the other kick. There's that woodblock. So now with those sounds broken out, you can use all of the tools in your rack. You can use all of your standard mixing workflow and protocols and stuff. You can see your whole mix, but it doesn't clutter up your track list. You can still only one instance of Groove Agent. You can use it, keep all the data nice and packed up there on one track and so forth. The last thing that I want to show you with this is once you have all these channels established, it's a real handy time to link them with a VCA Fader. So if you select all the drums now and click on the first one, hold down Shift and click on the last one. And here's a hint: the easiest place to click on the track is in the meter, because you click anywhere else and it's going to either turn something on and off, it's going to adjust the pan. It's hard to get a hold of it without adjusting it. And the easiest place to do that I found is grab the meter itself. So grab the first one, Shift, grab the last one. With them selected, right click on any of them, come down here and add VCA Fader to selected channels, and boom, now we have a master control for the whole thing. So if you look at this from the track list point of view, Groove Agent is one thing, like a stem. The VCA Fader lets you still mute solo and change that drum part as a part, but you can jump in here and adjust the individual levels and sends and all that other stuff. And then the last thing I want to show you before we bail out of this video is that you can do this to any VST instrument. So if we open up the Halion Sonic SE here, oops, that's from the last time I tried this. We have two sounds layered up. There's this sort of pad thing and then this kind of sequence thing. All right, yeah, same deal. If you wanted to work with those independently, you can come over to the mixer tab here and mess around with it. But another option is to come down here and just activate another output. Right? Where'd it go? I'll do it up on the rack here. Turn on output 2 first, then send this to output 2. And now I've got two Halion Sonic channels. The first is just the pad. And the second is just that little sequence drift. So, and especially if you're using Halion Sonic with you know, a bunch of MIDI tracks, and then you've got bass, keys, the whole bit, you get the idea. You can still mix with it in a normal fashion. You don't have to, you're not limited to mixing within the VST. So you can do this with Loop Mash, you can do this with any of the VST instruments out there. And hopefully that's helpful. Nothing's going to sound any different, it's an easier way to work. So I hope that helps, and we'll wrap this one up, and I'm going to jump back in just a moment and talk about using the right track for the right job.